Good morning, everyone. We are here today to mark the end of this Congress and celebrate the culmination of all the valuable work that has been presented and shared over the past few days. And I need to mention that we are honored to have had the opportunity to host such esteemed speakers and participants, all of whom have contributed to the success of this event. Thanks in advance at the first time of the day. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Vahid Ghobadian as the first keynote speaker of our final day. I will share his short biography with you all. Professor Ghobadian got his bachelor degree in architecture from Ohio State University, USA, between 1976 and 1981. He won the Max Black Award for the Best Metaphor in summer of 1980 in Catholic University of America. He got his master's degree in architecture from Ohio State University in 1983 and minor degree in the field of city and regional planning. His PhD study in architecture was completed in 1999 in Azad Islamic University. He taught at several different universities for the past 27 years in Iran and abroad. He had been selected as the Researcher of the Year of the Islamic Azad University in 2005. He had the role as the head of the architectural department of the Islamic Azad University in Dubai, United Arab Emirates in 2006 to 2011. He is an associate professor at Islamic Azad University, Tehran branch, has taught architectural design studio, history and theory of architecture, contemporary and sustainable architecture. He is also a member of the International Energy Agency, SHC Task 2028 BSc Annex 38 project. He had lectures in sustainable solar housing seminars in Australia, England, and France, as well as the University of Rome. He has lectures in various universities, architectural organizations, and governmental agencies in Iran and Dubai about traditional, sustainable, and contemporary architecture. Professor Ghobadian established White Architecture Consultant in Tehran in 1994, and the summer of 1999, the consultant won the Best Award for the Solar Office Building Design Competition in the city of Yazd. He also participates as head of jury members of several national and international architectural competitions. Since 2017, he is a member of the board and head of the Architectural Expert Group of Construction Engineering Organization of Tehran Province since 2017. He published more than 80 architectural papers in peer-reviewed journals, architectural magazines, university and professional journals. Professor Ghobadian, if you're ready, I would like to invite you to the screen and share your presentation with us.
Okay. Good morning. It's an honor to be on this panel today, and I'm very glad that we are having this discussion about sustainability. Turkey and Iran, two countries with very significant history of building construction since thousands of years ago. And by looking at this traditional architecture, there are lessons that we can learn from the traditional architecture, both in Turkey and in Iran. And our discussion right now is about Iran. By learning from the past experiences, I don't mean to go back to the building of 100 years ago. Instead, what I mean is to see what they have done when they were designing and they were building with regard to climate. And for today construction, what we can do in regard to climate. If in modern architecture, form follows function, in traditional architecture in Iran, in Turkey, and all over the world, traditional architecture always form followed climate. In the North Pole, they build their igloos according to the climate of the North Pole. In the jungles of the Africa or South America, they had those timber and branches houses. In the climate, in the cold climate, always climate was a big factor for designing buildings. to make comfortable space and comfortable place for people to live in. But in the last 100 years, with the advance of technology, more and more we are relying on technology for comfort. But this technology has a cost. This technology destroys the environment. This technology consumes fossil fuel. This technology brings comfort for us, but at the same time, it destroys our environment, destroys our climate. So it is not saying not to use technology. We have to use technology. We have to use the advanced technology. But at the same time, we should look what we can learn from traditional architecture. In traditional architecture, they use passive energy and passive climatic design. And those are the things that we can learn for today. And if we learn from what it has been done in the past, our buildings can bring us comfort with less energy consumption and less damage to our precious environment and our Mother Earth. Okay, I think I have about 45 minutes, so I try in this short time to show my slides, to show how in different climates in Iran we design and what we can learn from each one of these regions in our contemporary architecture. Okay, so I start with my design, my presentation, PowerPoint. So Sustainable Traditional Buildings of Iran, a Climatic Analysis. This is a book which I published about 3 years ago. And if anybody interested, they can order this book on Amazon. And the book is about 250 pages. And most of the discussions that I'm presenting to you today, you can find in this book. Okay. This is Iran. Turkey is here, our brother country, and this is Iran. Okay. Iran can be divided in 4 climatic regions. Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, and Region 4. Region 1 is by the Caspian Sea, north of Iran, and it is green, lots of rain, lots of forest, and temperate climate. Okay, so this is Region 1. Region 2 is mountainous and high plateau. It's very cold in winter and hot in summer. And so we have different kind of climate here than here. Region 3 is by the Persian Gulf and Sea of Oman, very hot and humid most of the year, very hot summer and mild winter. And Region 4 is here, which is most of the area of Iran. It is hot and dry climate. Okay, so now we want to see in each one of these 4 regions how traditional buildings built their buildings with regard to the climate and to the environment of each one of these 4 regions. Okay. Region 1, which is by the Caspian Sea, the climate is cold in winter, hot and humid in summer. High humidity and precipitation, windy rain. We can say this climate is more or less like what we have in southern Turkey. It is kind of lots of rain, especially in winter, and humid in summer. Urban 4, open urban spaces, detached buildings. Because here we have lots of humidities, the buildings are detached, we need to have lots of ventilation, especially cross ventilation inside the building and around the building. And because we have a lot of rain, traditional buildings, they had gable roofs for the rain. Building 4, gable roof, as I said, there are gable roofs because there's lots of rain. Building above natural ground. The traditional buildings, they built their buildings above the ground because the ground was very much damp. And in order to block this dampness penetrating into the floor, they would usually build buildings a little bit above the ground, so you wouldn't have dampness on the floor. Outward-oriented buildings, the windows are open to the outside. So we would have cross ventilation inside the building, because if you don't have cross ventilation inside these buildings in summertime, especially, it would be too hot and too humid. The best natural solution is cross ventilation. So you have windows here, windows on the back, and in summertime, you can have cross ventilation inside. Continuous balconies on four sides. On four sides of the building, there were balconies for two reasons. The first reason was in summertime, lots of activity would commence in this balcony, because in these balconies, you had shade and ventilation. And inside the building still would be too damp, so they would come outside, sit outside, they would eat their food outside, and most of the time they would sleep outside. And in winter time, most of the activity would go inside the building. And also, so you would have this gable roof covering the balcony. So when these activities commence in this balcony, you would then get the rain. And also, this gable roof blocks rain from hitting the walls, because these walls, they were timber frame, but on the timber frame, they had mud, and this mud would be washed with water or with rain. So they would bring the gable roof on the walls and on the balcony, so protect the balcony and the building against this windy rain. Construction material, timber, plant material, and masonry. Because there are lots of forest and plant material, so they would use timber, branches, thatch for the construction, and also masonry. They would use sometimes brick, sometimes mud brick, and they would cover it with mud and stucco render on the walls. If I show you some examples, okay, so you can see the building is built above the ground because there is lots of rain. So this wet ground, the dampness would not penetrate inside the building. And as you can see, most of the building is built with timber and plant material. You have thatch roof, and you have these balconies. Most of the activities in summertime would commence in these balconies. In wintertime, they would go inside. So this gable roof protects the balcony and the activity in the balcony. And also, it would protect these walls, because on these walls you have stucco, and you have sometimes you have mud brick render on top of it. So to protect these walls, these balconies are, and sometimes when there is a lot of rain, you can see these plastic sheets. They would roll down the plastic sheets, so the water would not come in and disrupt the activities inside. And as you can see, they would take their shoes here. They would take the shoes here, and they would go barefoot. And this is all living spaces here and inside, in summertime, outside, and in wintertime, the activities would be inside the building. So these, you can still find these buildings in the villages. In some villages still you can, but in cities, these are cities. This is a city of Gorgan. This is Astara by the this is Caspian Sea. And still you can see they have openings on the outside for cross ventilation, gable roof. And as I said, especially in summertime, in these spaces, you need cross ventilation and you need shade to provide comfort. This is another building. As you can see again in the villages, still we have some of these buildings in the villages. the building is built above the ground. You have thatched roof, you have balconies, and the thatched roof protects all the buildings and all the spaces around it because you have lots of rain here, and you have to block this rain from penetrating into these spaces inside. And this gentleman is making ropes for these thatch in order to, they would use these ropes to tie knots and to put these thatch roofs on the top of the gable. Okay, Central Plateau region. Central Plateau region is here, hot and dry, which covers most of Iran. Famous cities like Isfahan, Tehran, Yazd, Kashan, they are in this area. Cold in winter, hot and dry in summer. And low humidity and precipitation, dusty wind, especially in summertime when there is wind, the wind brings lots of dust. And you have to protect the building against this dusty wind. Urban form. Enclosed urban spaces, adjoined building. Let me show you an urban space. This is the city of Yazd, and this is the city of Birjan. You can see the urban spaces are enclosed. The buildings are enclosed because one of the problems that there is in this hot and dry area, especially in summertime, is dusty wind. And this dusty winds, we have to block it in order to provide a good space for human activity. So in these spaces, you're protecting against the wind, and you put plants and vegetation, and you would bring a comfortable area in here against this dusty wind and cold and hot and dry region. Okay. So I joined building. Building for convex roofs. In here, all the roofs are convex because there are not very many trees, and trees are very precious. So with brick or with adobe, they would make all these kind of like walls and domes, and no timber, because timber is very precious here. Okay, you follow me? Do you have my voice? Is it clear, the things that I'm saying? You have it made over there? It's okay?
Yes, everything is okay.
Okay, very good. Adjoined building, convex, ground floor lower than natural ground level. They would usually have basements in these buildings. And in summertime, when it's too hot outside, they would go in the basement, and most of the activities would be in the basement and also in the ground floor. But basement is very important in this kind of situation. These houses, we call it four-season houses. Four-season houses. In winter time, they live on this side, which is warmer because the sun would make this space warm. North is this way. In summertime, they would live in this side, and they would have wind towers. So it's called four-season houses. This is winter quarter. This is summer quarter. In winter time, they live on this side. In summertime, they live on this side. And you have only one opening to the outside, as I said, because there is dusty wind. So all the buildings are enclosed. From this door, you go through a corridor to the central courtyard. And from the central courtyard, you go to different spaces inside. So it is completely closed to the outside, and all the activities and all the circulation, ventilation, sight, views, everything is provided from the courtyard. And in summertime, they would open these wind towers, and the wind would come inside and would have ventilation in the summer quarter. And so you have central construction material, brick, adobe, and mud. Adobe is unbaked brick. When you bake the brick, it's brick. When you don't bake it, it's adobe. Adobe is cheaper, but brick is much better and can stand wind and rain much better. So this is construction material. And this is a traditional house in the city of Kashan. It's called Burujerdiha house. This is the summer quarter. This is the winter quarter. In summertime, you have wind towers. In summertime, they would live here. In wintertime, they would live here. And all the activities are from the central courtyard. And in the past, this space was more dedicated for men, and this space was more dedicated for women. So it was men and women, but they were separated. So this was like a men's quarter, and women and children would live in this side. Okay, so this is the summer quarter. As you can see, it's all open. You have wind towers, and in summer you sit here, and it's comfortable because you have cross ventilation, you have greenery. So in summertime, they would live in this space. And as I said, in wintertime, so this was summertime, and in wintertime, they would go and live in the other space. Okay. Mountainous and high plateau, cold climate, it's this one. Mountainous and high plateau are these mountains, okay? Very cold in winter, mild in summer, low humidity and precipitation, cold winter wind. So the problem here we have is winter wind. So for that reason, again, these central courtyard houses, they are close to the outside. And again, you only have one opening. From one opening, you come inside, and all the activities are from the inside. So flat and convex roof, because there are trees here, sometimes they make the roofs with timber and sometimes with brick. And let me show you one of these. If I show you one of these buildings, this is one of these buildings. Okay, you have a central courtyard. One thing is, because it is cold, it only has winter quarter because it's very cold and you need to gain heat from the sun. So the sun would provide it. In the summertime, they have no space because in summertime, it doesn't get too warm to come on this side. So if I show you this building, it only has winter quarter, no summer quarter. And all the activities are on this side, and in the summer quarter, not much activity. If I show you some of these buildings, these are some of the buildings from the cold region of Tabriz. You can see the summer quarter is very small. It is the winter quarter, which is important, and the activities in summer and winter would commence in this side of the house. And if I show you the urban texture, it's very compact. The buildings are adjoined because winter wind, when they come, it would make it very cold. So in order to protect yourself against the cold winter wind and against the cold winter time, all the buildings are adjoined. Unlike this, that you can see the buildings are separated from one another. But in the cold climate, the buildings are adjoined because it's very cold in wintertime. Okay. And region 4, southern coastal region, hot and humid. It is here. Persian Gulf, Sea of Oman. This region is mild winter, very hot and humid in summer. So summertime is very hot. Right now it's getting a little bit better, but winter time is mild and good. High humidity, low precipitation. You have lots of humidity, but it doesn't rain here. So it's kind of arid, but lots of humidity because of you have the Persian Gulf and Sea of Oman. Okay. So this building is designed especially for summertime. Okay. This building is designed for winter time This building is designed for winter and summer because it has very cold winter and very hot summer. And this building is designed for temperate climate with lots of rain. So when we say form follows climate, you can see in 4 different climatic regions, we have 4 different building form, 4 different urban texture. And that's why we say in traditional architecture, form follows climate, okay? Okay, so the problem here is summertime. Semi-open urban spaces, urban development part to this, semi-open urban spaces. If you look at the urban spaces here, the urban spaces are not very much attached, are not very much separated. If they are attached, you would block air circulation. In here, you need air circulation and you need shade. So these alleys are designed in such a way that this is the Persian wall. These alleys are designed in such a way that you would have cross ventilation between sea and land in here, and you would also have shade. So they are not very far from another and they are not attached. And as you can see, this is Boucher. I have it here. If in modern architecture, form follows function, in traditional architecture, urban texture, building form, and choice of material follow the climatic condition and natural environment. So this is what we can say about the traditional architecture. Semi-detached buildings, flat roofs, building above natural grade, inward, outward oriented building. The buildings here, they have central courtyard. This is Boucher. This is Boucher. The buildings here have central courtyard, but they have windows on the inside, windows on the outside. In order to have cross ventilation inside these spaces in here. Is it clear what are you following me? Okay. Yes. Okay, good.
Yes,
So,
Professor.
yes, very good. So if in here it's hot and dry, you don't have any opening to the outside. All the openings are toward the inside. But here, because it's different climate and it's very hot and humid, you have windows on the outside, windows on the inside, but both of them, they have central courtyard. Okay, so you have central courtyard, you have windows on the outside, windows on the inside, and you have wind tower. In 2 regions in Iran, we have wind tower. The Persian Gulf, we have wind tower, and also in the central courtyards, we have, because of the hot summers. But in these 2 regions, we don't have any wind towers in Iran. So this is Bandar Lenge, this is Bandar Kon, 2 beautiful traditional cities by the Persian Gulf. As you can see, we have central courtyards, we have wind towers, and these wind towers bring the breeze between sea and land inside this courtyard, and it would make this courtyard a pleasant space, especially in summertime, because you have ventilation and you have shade in this. So these are all passive practices, not active. So with passive energy, with shade, and with ventilation, you will try to provide comfort to these spaces. Okay, deep balconies, as I said, because it's very hot here, balconies and shades are very important to make the buildings be in shade and not bring too much heat inside the building. And timber, rubble, coral stone, brick, and adobe. These are the construct. Timber it was imported from India and Africa because there was lots of these ships going to India and going to Africa. They would bring timber and they would use timber for the roofs. So you can see the roofs are flat and it's all done with timber and mud and brick to cover the top of the building. Okay. There is another region in Iran, very small region, and this region is actually here in Khuzestan. In here we have two cities. These two cities are situated right here, and their building type is something between this red region and this dry region. It's called Desul and Shushtar. So we have two cities of Desul and Shushtar right here. And the building type here is, because the climate is high humidity, low precipitation, it's hot and humid. Because it is humid, we have again windows both on the inside and on the outside. But these buildings, they don't have winter quarter. They only have summer quarter. Because in winter time, it doesn't get too cold to go there. So this building type is exactly opposite to this building type. This is in cold region. In cold region, the winter quarter is very important. And the winter quarter, most of the living spaces are here because it is cold climate. But when you come to Desul and Shushtar, it is hot and humid. Because it is humid, it is cross ventilation and no winter quarter, only summer quarter. There are very beautiful buildings in this Desul and Shushtar, very beautiful brickworks. You can see the central courtyard. And if you look at this plan, they only have summer quarter, no winter quarter, and most of the activities would commence in the summer quarter. And they also have deep basements. And in summertime, when it's too hot in the outside, they would go to this space which was called Shabadan. Under the courtyard, it was like 6 or 7 meters under the courtyard, and in summertime, they would go to these basements, and most of the activities in summertime would commence in these places. So again, here you have central courtyard, construction material is rubber, brick, and adobe. And I showed you several building types in several different climatic regions. And in each one of these regions, you saw different buildings. By the Caspian Sea, lots of rain, you get this type of building, traditional building like that. And when you go to hot and dry, cold winter, hot summer, you get these 4-season houses, winter time, summertime. And when you go to cold climate of this region, cold climate, most of the activity would be on the north side of the building because you get a lot of sun and you get more heat, so it's more comfortable here. All the windows are around the courtyard. Then you go to the southern parts of Iran, very hot and humid. You have central courtyards, you have windows on the inside, windows on the outside for cross ventilation. And when you go to Desul and Shushtar, which are these two small cities, you get this type of building type, which you can see here. What can we learn from these buildings? I will show you 3 buildings very briefly. This is one building that I have designed in the cold climate. And I tried in this building to utilize winter sun as much as possible because it's very cold. So on the south side, I put big windows. But on the west side, On the east side and west side, no windows or very little windows. And on the north side, here no windows, here there are some windows. So what I talked to you about passive practices in traditional buildings. You can see here that I utilized what we learned from traditional buildings in here. The three sides are closed, the south side is open, and for summertime, I have put shade here so the summer sun would not penetrate inside these buildings. This is a university in Bandar Abbas by the Persian Gulf. And hot and humid. The architect, Mr. Mushiri, has put wind towers on top of the staircase. So the sea breeze would come to this wind tower, and from the staircase, they would penetrate inside the building. And also, the architect has put balconies and provide shade on the building, because as I said, in this place, it's very hot, it's very humid, and the architects has tried to provide shade and ventilation for this building. Okay, the architect is Mr. Mushiri. This is another building in the cold climate. It was designed by Mr. Nuhi. And again, the architect has tried to use the summer sun for the south side. The other sides are mostly closed. And these are water solar heater on top of the building. And there is also a small wind tower in the back for the summertime to provide ventilation inside the building. So very briefly, if I summarize what I said about what we can learn from traditional building is, if it rains a lot, it's better to orient your building towards south to bring winter sun inside and to provide shade for summer side. Bring the gable roof on top of the building and on top of the balconies. If you can, provide a greenhouse under the gable roof, and in winter time, when it gets hot, with a fan, you can send this hot air into the lower floors and put the buildings on piloting. And in summertime, you have a sea breeze here, and you can commence summer activities in this column, which we call it piloting, and it's a good space for summertime. If you go to hot and dry, orient the building towards south. This is what we call sunken courtyard, which is a courtyard, but it is digged inside. Bring winter sun, provide shade for summer sun. And if you can, use the room above the staircase as greenhouse and wind tower. You can make this greenhouse, and in winter time, send the hot air from here to the lower floors. And in summertime, you can catch wind and send this wind through the staircase to the lower floors. And when you go to cold climate, open the south side, close the three sides, and again here, use the room above the staircase as a greenhouse. Okay, you can have a room above the staircase, or you can extend it. And in winter time, when it gets too hot here with a fan, you can send this hot air to the lower floors. So this is good for the cold climate. And if you go to hot and dry climate, again, orient the building toward the south, put your buildings on columns or pilotis, provide shade on four sides, and use this room, the room above the staircase, as a wind tower. You can open this door toward the sea breeze, and the sea breeze can come inside this room, and through the staircase, you can send this breeze to the other floors and provide shade and ventilation all around the building. So it is not to say that these traditional practices are only for traditional buildings. No, we can learn from those traditional buildings and we can bring those ideas to contemporary buildings. And as we all know, sustainable architecture has become a very big issue. So we can bring some of these lessons from traditional architecture to our contemporary buildings and to provide more comfortable buildings with using less energy and to reach to the ideas of sustainable architecture with what we can learn from traditional architecture. I think we have 3 or 4 minutes now. If there is any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Yes, Professor, thank you so much for your presentation. We already have a question in the bar, and if there are any comments or questions, please leave them in the Q&A bar. I will be directing the first one to you immediately. The first question is from Zehra Eminaoğlu. What is the situation of conservation and sustainability in rural areas? Is it through government policies or personal volunteer efforts?
Unfortunately, sustainable architecture is not an important issue right now in Iran. I think one reason is people say, oh, we have lots of oil, we have lots of petroleum. So we can provide comfort with the use of technology, with use of these petroleum and fossil fuel. So sustainable architecture, more or less in our country, is just talked about in our universities. Although there are few buildings which have been designed according to sustainable architecture, but mostly in rural areas and in urban areas, we have no sustainable buildings. What we can consider as sustainable buildings in Iran are those traditional buildings which was built about 100 or 200 years ago.
Thank you, Professor. Another question from Tanya Orsomartso. Thank you for your informative presentation. I understand and agree with the need to design buildings to be climatically responsive. I have many questions about the examples you analyzed. Shall I ask them one by one? Regarding the northern region building typologies, thatched roofs are common in many places around the world. Are they still used in the northern regions of Iran? The contemporary buildings you showed didn't appear to have thatched roofs. How often thatched roofs require replacements?
What do you mean by thatched roofs?
I guess the the roof type you showed, like the yeah, I couldn't.
Right now, unfortunately, in Iran, we build buildings all the same everywhere. And our roofs are basically flat roofs. And we use waterproofing. So no more domes, no more vault, no more gable roof. 99% is flat. And only by the Caspian Sea, which it rains a lot, we use gable roof. The rest of the country is flat roof with waterproofing.
Okay. Thank you for your answer, Professor. I'll just wait for a second for another question, but I guess we don't have more questions. Oh, no, one. Okay, another one from Tanya again. To what degree have these building typologies been retained in Iran? What's the reasoning for the fortressing of some of the building typologies? Why are the buildings in the hottest and most humid southern region so close? Wouldn't they benefit from cross-ventilation? I presently live and work in the United Arab Emirates, which shares the climate of the southern region of Iran. It is disappointing to see these building typologies have been completely abandoned and forgotten in the development of this country. Why do you think these practices have been abandoned in the region?
Yeah, these practices have been abandoned all over the world. The reason is technology. In the past, we had to build wind towers to sit under the wind towers for a cross ventilation. But now, right now, we have air conditioning. In winter time, we have all kind of heaters and everything. So because of the technology, the old practices has been abandoned. But if we learn from the past what they have done, we can lower our dependence on technology. We should use technology whenever it is needed. So when you design a building, first try to design the building according to the climate. Try to use sun, try to use ventilation, try to use shade, try to use evaporation from vegetation. First, try to use this, and then go to use advanced technology. So first, passive energy, and after that, active energy. When I design, I try to lower the energy of the building by what I learned from the traditional architecture through passive energy and passive design. And at the end, I put solar panels, I put wind turbine, I put everything at the end. But first, passive energy, and at the end, you can use solar panel or whatever to provide. And in this way, you can lower your dependence on technology, and you can lower your dependence on fossil fuel, which we all know is not good for the environment.
Thank you for the answer. We are at the end of our time, and we don't have more questions. Professor, thank you so much for your presentation again. And I want to thank to all participators with attendance and discussed questions. These are very important contributions for that kind of meetings. Now we will have a break for parallel sessions. At 1 p.m., the parallel sessions will be continuing in the rooms. So everyone, I wish you good days. Take care of yourselves. See you all there.
Bye-bye.